Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 64 of Wise Wednesdays with RK. I am super excited today because I have been waiting a long time for this conversation with Christopher David Mitchell. And he, I think, requires no introduction. He is a transformational coach, someone who is very honest, authentic, and transparent about his life journey, about what has gone into making him the person that he is. And so, without further ado, I bring to you Christopher.
Thank you
Hello
so much
there.
for the introduction, RK. I really appreciate it. And it's great to be here. I know we've had this scheduled for a while, so it's great to just finally get together for this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for saying yes. And I'm sure everyone's going to be super excited about the conversation, which promises to be powerful and yes, powerful. I think that's the word that has been on
Hopefully.
my mind. Yes. So when we spoke and I asked you, what would you like to speak about? You said overcoming adversity to transform your life. And for those of us who've seen your video on the survival story, and it's had it's inspired millions of people around the world, 4 million at last count.
4
Yes.
million overall. Yeah, I think 3 million on YouTube and 1 million on Facebook at the moment.
Beautiful. So imagine touching all those lives with your story and your truth, and to imagine that that was something that you were shying away from for a while. So,
Yeah, for a long while. So I guess if people haven't seen that, then I better just sort of preface the health story journey. I'll do the 5 minute version. But basically, how it happened was it's all in a YouTube called My Survival Story: Living with an Ileostomy Bag. Some other people might know that as a colostomy bag. It's similar. But basically, at 27 years old, I was pretty fit, well, and healthy, and got struck down by inflammatory bowel disease. Don't know if people are familiar with Crohn's disease. People have heard of a bit more, or ulcerative colitis. Now, I had ulcerative colitis, and what happened was I was just very quickly hospitalized and had life-saving surgery at 27 years old. And basically, it was a long time of healing and recovery before I got well again. It was on the scale of years. It really took about 4 years. And now I do live with an ileostomy bag. And sort of the journey of that all the years through hospital were what sort of prompted the health video and prompted the talk of overcoming adversity, because now that health video is out, I think that's the thing that I can help people with the most, sort of just from real life experience. That's the sort of thing I can offer and help the most. So yeah, I'm happy to touch on sort of overcoming difficult times and stuff. And of course, the journey it took to even tell the story on YouTube, because the first operation, the life-saving operation, happened in 2013, but I didn't tell the health story. I didn't tell hardly anyone till 2019. So it took 6 years. So, I mean, it does take a while. So I'm happy to go through the process of that. That would be great.
and prior to that life changing turn that happened, you were had a successful career as a singer, as a vocational um, artist, and you had successful presentations and performances on was it Broadway?
West End,
At
London.
West in London, right?
Yeah.
And you still do a bit of a vocal training on YouTube as well, right?
Well, this is part of the whole journey in the story, which we'll get to, which is an interesting thing, is that I was a vocal coach, and once I released my truth, my authenticity, my health story, it created a deeper layer of authenticity within me, and then all the things that I've been suppressing actually wanted to come out. So actually, it was telling the truth that then shifted thinking, is there a next level from this voice coach to more of a personal development life coach? So actually, it was that video that changed that whole thing. So thanks to that video, no, I'm no longer really doing voice coaching. I still incorporate some of it, but it sort of took me on a new journey after that.
So, telling your truth, that's what really stuck with me as you were sharing right now. Why is the truth important?
Well, I think that truth is more important as well, by the way, I believe, than just positivity. Positivity is great, and that's fine if that's what you truly feel. But when you go through adversity, when you go through some tough times, it's not always happy and positive. So to be able to sort of feel the truth of your emotions, and as human beings, we've got all spectrum of emotions, frustrated, happy, sad, everything. I think that to be in touch with the truth of your emotions first is important, because if you don't acknowledge your own truth, and i.e. really what we're sort of saying is your own true story, your own true feelings, your own true emotions, your own true experience, then you're always living a sort of a falseness, a fakeness. And with me, not even being able to tell my truth was sort of building up. You sort of repress all them emotions that you should be able to be truthful about in the world. And that builds up over time when you're not expressing your true self, because you're playing a sort of character in a way. And then that can transpire into a lot of problems when you're not your true self. So you can find yourself self-sabotaging, or you can find yourself drinking too much alcohol, and you think, oh, I've got an alcohol problem, but it's not that. The problem is that you're just not connected to your true emotions and your true self. And like I say, when I told the health story, what happened was I told the truth about my journey and myself, and then suddenly, 70% of me suddenly opened out. So then it's a blossoming of that. And then suddenly you're like, oh, now I'm in my truth. It's like, now I can talk about that on YouTube, or I can do I couldn't even do this podcast here, this YouTube we're doing. It was only because I was in my truth. Otherwise I would have been like, oh, I can't talk about that. And you deny every part. So it's sort of, if you repress the truth, it sneaks up on you in not so great ways over the years, basically.
I definitely hear you, because for me, the most liberating part, very interestingly, I started out doing my daily videos because I hit a wall, because I was in the darkest time of my life. And those of you who know my story know that I started doing daily videos because I was dealing with a lot of depression, a place where I couldn't face the empty house. It was hard for me to even get out of bed until almost 4 or 5 in the evening. And I thought, what is one little thing that I could do to show up every day as best as I can? And so
Yeah.
that's where really video started, and now this the Wise Wednesdays.
That's
Now, thank you. Last year, October 14th, which is the day of my dad's passing, Papa's passing, fell on a Wednesday, and I had the option of hiding away, or just saying that I need a break, or I wouldn't show up, or I had the option of showing up. And I chose the other because I had people who trusted that I should do this. And so on that day, I picked the hardest topic to speak on. I spoke on resolving grief.
right.
And it gives me goosebumps even now as I speak,
Mhm.
because speaking of grief on that day, which was the most difficult one for me, just helped me heal so much.
Yeah, just speaking the truth about the subject. Yeah.
And it helped so many people. I got messages after that live from people who said it was really helpful. So I think I get what you're saying when you say you share your truth, and there's this burden that's lifted.
Yeah. And did you still just you still, apart from like say building your YouTube and doing this and putting all that energy into that, did you also take time to grieve as well? Did you take time out? Did you allow yourself to feel the emotions? Because one thing that when I was going through after the adversity is that actually, instead of it feeling wrong to be sad or wrong to cry and resisting all that, I actually had, a long time where I mourned the death of my old career. I mourned like the past me, and I did cry and I did stuff, and I sort of had to have that period of letting it out as well. Did you do that at all, or how was your process of doing that?
I did give myself some time. I had actually stopped writing, coaching, speaking for a few months.
Mm,
There were some projects I was still part of, but I did them again with the awareness that it has to be done. But I did give myself enough space to uh, just breathe. I think,
yeah,
just somehow just let it sink in that life's not going to be the same again. It's changed, but it's
yeah,
evolved. Um,
yeah.
a different way.
Because this is the trap that I nearly fell into, which is a really interesting trap. So, and I've only just recently realized this, so I want to say it. But I'm glad that you integrated both sides. But when you look up and hear about people who've been through tough times, they've been through adversity, they often go on to do successful things, great things. And if you read the book, which I highly recommend, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, which is turning the ancient art of adversity to your advantage. And that whole book is littered with examples of people who've had a really tough time, like they lost, there was a death in the family, or they got divorced, or someone died, or they lost their health, or they lost their business. And then they turned that to their advantage, and they did something successful, like they built a successful business, or they, something like that. And so, that's all great. And the reason why that happens is that when you go through a really tough time of adversity, there's so many negative emotions. There's so much like, frustration and heartache and everything. And people can use that as fuel to do something good, like start a business, which is great. But the only problem with that is that it actually just is a distraction from doing the real work. So sometimes you can sort of be like, well, I'm successful now in this. And I was like, at first, I'm better now. But when I first started building my coaching business, I was like a rocket. And really, I hadn't fully integrated some of the past. So I was using like this fuel of like, I can overcome the tough times and everything, which works. But in the end, it actually cost me a little bit. So there's knowing when you're using your adversity, which you can be aware of, as fuel, but when you've fully healed from your adversity, actually you still build your business and stuff, but it's from more of a positive way, rather than like it's from like using the hard times you went through to nail it in business. Like, so I definitely did that one, and it worked, but then there has to be a shift sort of thing. Does that make sense? Is that a bit complicated?
That no, no, that makes sense to me, and what I hear you saying, or at least how I'm looking at it, is that when you're really pushing yourself for those achievements, sometimes the achievements feel a little hollow. They feel empty, kind of. At least that's how it did feel to me,
Yeah.
until I'd kind of got myself around it. It just felt like, okay, I have to do this because I've committed to it, but it
Mm.
just felt very incomplete or hollow. It just felt like, why am I even bothering myself?
Well, yeah, it can, and it's like I like to think of it like a pendulum. So adversity is sort of like you're sort of over here somewhere, and you're going through tough times, and it's rough and everything. So what you tend to do is you tend to swing the other way. Like, and people who go through adversity and tough times, most of them are workaholics because they've been so down and out for so long, or they've had a like near death experience that then they're like, God, I need to make the most of it. I need to go full hell for leather. And then what you do is that works, and then you find something in the middle, some balance. So, like, nothing will give you motivation like tough times. Nothing will give you motivation like adversity. But then, like I say, I was like feeling that it's sort of the difference between positive and negative motivation. Negative motivation is moving away from stuff you don't want, like the stick. And positive is being happy and content and just moving towards the things you do want. But when a lot of people get out of a tough time and out of adversity, they're actually like, they've got a stick fire behind them and they're like, God, I need to get out of this tough situation. So that's what happens. Then you rebalance and then there's a shift and then you complete and then you feel okay, you feel healed, you feel worthy, you feel enough, you feel like you've healed your adversity and then you go forward in a positive way. I think that's just like the normal cycle.
Tony Robbins talks about pain and pleasure, right?
Yeah.
So what I talk about is pain, pleasure, and take it one level up into purpose.
Yeah.
So if you're moving away from pain, you're working towards pleasure, but what if you could take it a level up and give it a purpose?
Yeah, I
Give.
like that.
Thank you.
I like
So
that. And it's so true. And it's the way it should be. So when I look back at myself and I'm like, oh, I was a workaholic when I came out of hospital. Well, I was always going to have that fire because I was using the adversity. And now I'm more balanced. And then, yeah, you find that purpose. And really, I really love Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that model.
yes, yes.
Really, that's what that model is. We just went pain, getting out of the bottom level survival modes. Because when you're in adversity, there's normally a threat to real survival mode. There was for me, I nearly died. Then you're getting a bit higher. And then the top level need, which are still needs, is the self-actualization, which is really like life purpose. But you have to sort of get out of survival mode first. You can't tell someone out of a hospital bed, just find your life purpose. They're just like, man, I just need to get through tomorrow. So I like that. Pain, pleasure, purpose. Yes,
Purpose.
nice.
Yes, pain, pleasure, purpose. Thank you.
Nice.
So your purpose is to go out there to share your truth. What's going on there?
Yeah.
And help people transform their lives.
Mm.
Because you understand that all of us have a purpose, all of us have a potential. What
Yeah.
does that mean for you?
Well, I think that it feels unfortunately more poignant than ever because overcoming adversity 10 years ago may or may not have been a thing. But it feels like the right time to be coaching on this as well, because we've all had an adversity with the pandemic of sorts, or most people have. Some businesses are doing great. I don't think Zoom's had an adversity, but for most, but even then, they're people, and they might have known people who have. So still, as a society, so we have a feeling of what it's like to go through adversity and tough times, and how to come out the better. And like I say, after sort of feeling more healed and complete, I felt like the thing I could impact people the most on was not teaching them how to use their singing voice, however that's important, but it's like the number one thing that I could do the best, I felt like was that. And, when people go through a really big event in life, it's meaningful to them. So they normally turn it into some sort of business for the greater good. I mean, if people just think about when you give to charity, if you do, you're going to give to a charity usually that means something to you. So it could be you're going to give to a charity. If it's a kid's charity, maybe you lost a child. If it's a dog's charity, but dogs mean something to you. It's like that, because I think the story of transforming and overconversing now is linked to my story. It's the thing I can then help others with the most. And so my journey or thought process of it now is that I'm sort of constantly trying to grow myself and then just bring people along like with me sort of thing. So it's sort of an inspiring thing for me, the purpose, to feel like I'm that's how I can hopefully help people the most. Because there's a lot of people that write about adversity, say, even Ryan Holiday, who I love, but I don't think, unless I'm mistaken, he's been through some massive thing himself. He just knows about it. But I think you don't have to necessarily experience everything you talk about, but it sure helps, I think, that extra layer of knowledge and understanding. And I feel like I can use that now for the greater good.
Absolutely. I think there's a level of empathy that comes into place, which is very, very different and respectful from sympathy. Yep, definitely. So
Yeah.
we've got a few friends of watching. We've got
Oh,
Yusuf,
cool.
we've got Piki, we've got Vidya, and the others. Please leave in a hi, a hello, so that we can acknowledge you for the time you're giving us. And if you're new to the channel, do subscribe. And we have this lovely question from Piki.
Mm.
She says, um, "When you think you are reaching self-actualization, can you again hit rock bottom?"
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you want me to go for that, or do you want to go for that? I'll go for it if you want.
Yes, I'd love you to. And how would you uplift yourself then? So I'll let you take it. And charming.
So, so once you've, so the question being that once you start growing and developing yourself, and you find you're on that path to purpose and self-actualization, can you go backwards? And the answer is absolutely yes. Growth never happens. Let me get my hand right with the camera. Growth
Yes.
is never a straight line. Life is cyclical, so it means it happens in cycles and it's ups and downs. This is how stock markets grow. If you want to look at how people grow, we grow similar to how companies grow. So it's the collective, like countries grow. How the collective grows, whether it be a country or a company, is similar to how the individual grows, which is that it's up and down. Companies, they'll do up a bit, they'll be down a bit, they'll be up a bit, they'll be down a bit, and eventually you sort of wind your way up there somehow. So there'll be moments of growing and developing and feeling like you've done it and you're on a high, you're in a momentum, but there'll always be a slight downturn. And I know you probably know this, RK, because you study coaching like me, but I can't remember where I heard this from first. Maybe it was Tony Robbins, I can't remember. But it's that life unfolds in chapters,
Hmm.
and that each chapter of our life is generally, roughly, if we allow it to be, about 5 to 10 years long, and that's normal. So a chapter will be, let me go from this way. Sorry. So
Yeah.
you might be down here in life, and then you might be doing well. You might be growing. You build momentum. This could take years, and then you reach a peak. You might be at a peak for like 4 years, 5 years, 7 years in your career, but then there'll be a dip, the dip, as Seth Godin says in that book. If you want to get to the next level, you can't just keep doing that. You have to embrace a slight dip before then you build momentum again for the next thing and peak. And then you brace. So it actually will look like sort of up and then a dip and then up and then a dip and then up. That's how you sort of wind your way through life. We see this with, well, and that's where I've been a bit in a dip because of transitioning from voice coaching to that. It took retraining, re-getting an audience, redoing my website. But so there's always going to be moments where you go back down if you want to actually evolve. So life goes 4 steps forward, 2 steps back, 4 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. You're always going that way, but that's how life actually happens.
True that. One of my quotes is waltz with life. Don't get tangled.
Yeah,
Because
that's a simpler, better way of putting it. Yeah.
right. So yes, I do agree with you. It's never linear. It's never going up one
No, it's
direction.
not.
Even on my own coaching journey, I was just last year I embarked on the PCC accreditation, which required for me to do 500 coaching hours. So I was
Wow.
like focused. Thank you. So I was like super focused, would start my day at 6 and then I'd be off the laptop around 7, 8ish in the evening. I was thoroughly enjoying myself. And then around 300 hours plus, I hit a plateau. I began to question myself. Everything was going great, but I began to have self doubt. I began to question, am I doing this because I want to do this, or am I doing this because I'm missing the kids, so I want to be super busy?
Mm.
Those questions.
But that's really great because someone asked me the other day to reflect on that. Someone said, "Oh, what's important? Is it like action and taking action, and that's important, right, for building?" And I was like, "Yeah, it is, but also it needs to be balanced with self-reflection, which is what you did there. You had peaks where you took massive action, you did it, and of course, it takes action, Tony Robbins action, to build things, but you need moments of self-reflection and."
Hmm.
Uh, because you need to ask yourself the questions of like, is this work that I'm doing meaningful to me? Is this work I'm doing meaningful to others? Is this work online with my purpose? And point is, when you spend the time, and it might be a month or two, figuring that out, you won't be doing as much, you won't be making as much money, you won't be in momentum as much, but you'll still be growing more because you're taking that one step back in order for that better thing again. So I applaud that. A lot of people get stuck in cycles of action and actually don't really contemplate, is this action really aligned with my soul and my purpose?
True.
Because they always want to be generating results. So you have to appreciate, you have to embrace the dip, embrace the one step back, embrace the quiet moments, and realize that in the quiet moments, you're still growing, probably more so. That was a
Absolutely.
massive insight for me when I was going through the health battle, was that before the health journey, when I was a singer in London, I was doing stuff, I was making money, I had social status, I had followers. And when I was sitting at home recovering from the health journey, I initially thought, I'm not growing, I'm not developing, I'm not doing anything, I'm not earning any money. But that's not growth. Growth was everything was happening internally. And actually, I grew the most as a person at the times of inaction, not action.
Hmm. And as you say that, what comes to my mind is the metaphor of a cocoon.
Mm,
So when the caterpillar is kind of turned into a cocoon, it looks like there's nothing going on there. A little kid who might get hold of the cocoon might literally toss it off, saying, "Ah, there's nothing there." But it's actually there where all the growth happens. That's where all
mm,
the developing is happening. That's where the wings
yeah,
are being formed. It's just that the caterpillar needs to trust that
yeah.
and just be a little patient there. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I was thinking about this yesterday, like trust on the growth journey. Why it's difficult is you spend a lot of years growing with no instant feedback loop. So when you're growing your YouTube channel, it might take 2 years before you get feedback loop, and then suddenly you grow 5,000 subscribers in like a week. And then someone says, you grew 5,000 subscribers in a week. And what you know is, no, it's the last 2 years. It's just that you didn't see it because you didn't see it all. There was, there's the tennis player, the English one, the 18-year-old girl, Emma Raducanu, I think her name is. She just got to the quarterfinals of Wimbledon, and she had 2,000 Instagram subscribers before she entered the competition, and now she's got like 300,000. And someone said to me, she got 289,000 or whatever Instagram subscribers in 1 week. And I'm like, no, it was 14 years of playing tennis without any instant feedback loop, when she was patient, when she kept going, when no one was paying attention. That was when she was growing. All we're seeing now is the byproduct. So society will react to the byproduct. Society won't react when you're doing the internal work, but that's the sort of that's self-reflection work, but that's the important work, really. It's the roots of the tree, the foundation. Yeah.
Super important. We've got great comments coming in. Kosaji says, a dip is also growth. Direction doesn't matter. She
Yep.
adds to say the pause is also important.
Yep.
So another question from Vicky. She said, "No, yeah, it is a question." She says, "If direction does not matter, then does the dip matter?"
Does the dip matter as in, is the dip necessary? Does that mean, or
I think so. And if direction, I think this is more in reference to what Kosaji has said. She said that a dip is also growth. Direction doesn't matter. Direction. So I think the question has been addressed to one of the listeners,
Hmm.
but we can take it up if you'd like to.
Yeah, well, the dip is also growth, yes, because when you're self-reflecting, when you're not externally making any followers, subscribers, money, massive career, amazing things, you're still growing.
Yes.
So that's that, and then the direction doesn't matter. Direction still does matter, but you have to have like Simon Sinek says, the infinite game mindset. So you're not worried about the dip at the time because you know that you need to pause for a few months to re-clarify your vision and your purpose in order to be better. So if you're embraced in the dip and worried about it in the moment, and like, oh, I need to be doing something, then you're in a here and now finite mindset. But when you have the perspective of your life and and you're aware that the dips are necessary, then they don't affect you. You just sort of lean into it and embrace it a bit. It's easier said than done. Trust me, like I still guilt myself when I'm not like getting sometimes external results, or but at the same time, I know that, and everyone can experience it this year because everyone's had a sort of dip, like I say, through the pandemic. When some people ask me, well, there's nothing positive about the pandemic. Well, on a personal level, it can be that it's a chance to self-reflect. And that's why a lot of people have changed businesses. Fair enough, some people have changed businesses because of financial reasons, but a lot of people have actually changed a lot of their way of living from the pandemic because it's the first time that they haven't just been getting on the same train to London at the same time, and they've actually thought about things and thought, God, I'm 40 now or whatever, and actually I should do more traveling. It's almost like that slight adversity thing. Like I had the major thing of like, when people have a near-death experience, they go like, oh, like I should be living life differently. Like I haven't, it wakes you up to your mortality. But even the pandemic, it sort of wakes you up to like, oh, like
Hmm.
this is how I'm doing, or this is what I'm doing in my business. So there's still positive aspects to happen from that. So everyone's had that slight experience, which is great in a way.
Yes, and I also think that a lot of people have understood the value of boundaries. People have self-reflected, revamped their businesses, revamped their way of living. There has been a bit of positive in the pandemic too. I think.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I use as a coach, one of the tools that I use is a smile. What I say is you can get from feeling stuck to unstuck using a smile, which is an acronym I created when I did my
Oh,
book.
okay.
Thank you.
I want
So
to hear it.
yes, so S stands for silence the mind. So when you're stuck, you silence your mind because when you're
Mm.
so many things going on in your head. So silence your mind,
Mm.
manage your attention,
Mm.
identify the intention,
Yeah.
let things go,
Yeah.
and energize the possibilities. So I've thank you. I've presented this across different countries, and let things go is the hardest one because everybody
Yeah.
rolls their eyes when I say let things go. They're like, no, no, no. That's the toughest one. So I think culturally, across countries, across audiences, letting things go seems to be the one that is the
Yeah.
toughest.
Is that
So
is that similar to the let it go in terms of the Sedona method?
let it go in terms of forgiveness, letting go in terms of labels, letting go in terms of failures, past failures, and anything that you might be holding on to
Yeah,
and
that's
need for control.
it is hard. Yeah, it sounds. I'm sure you got your own version of it, but I read a book, The Sedona Method, and it was all just about the power of letting go, basically. But yeah, it's really tricky. And just to speak on that, I had to do that a lot through the health journey. So I had this vision and this dream of, because when I was going through the operations, there was a chance that I wouldn't have to have an ileostomy bag on me, that we could get rid of it with an operation that could heal me and I wouldn't need the bag. So I had the dream of, okay, I'll go through this operation because I can visualize it now. I won't need the bag and I would have got through it and all this would be worth it. And then the news came that like the last operation that we tried wasn't fully successful. And it was like, right, and you're going to have to live with, unless medical technology advances majorly, you're going to have to live with an ileostomy bag for the rest of your life. And so the news comes, and obviously you have to react accordingly first. But then at some point you have to say to yourself, can I just let that go? Like the whole feeling of like, oh, I shouldn't need an ileostomy bag. I shouldn't have to have one. Like, I don't deserve it. Like all the stuff that comes up. You have to sort of, every single one, you have to go like, and you have to just say, can I just accept it? Which is really, can I just accept it? To me is like, can I just say, well, I could drop that feeling, or I could drop that expectation. You build a vision and a dream, maybe even for a business, for any part of your life. But if it doesn't work out, sometimes you got to go, well, hey, what else can I do? Like, I have to just be able to say, I could be okay with that, So that I don't know if that's I don't know your process, but that was my version of let it go that I definitely had to do. And when you can't let something go, when you hang on to, but I'm a singer and I'm meant to be a singer and I should have had a longer singing career. Like if you hold on to that when life's different now and you've got an ileostomy bag, that causes unbelievable suffering. And this is why, like, say, celebrities have a lot of issues because they can't let it go, like, say, their fame or whatever, or their lifestyle that they're used to or whatever. Or like when people get addicted to business, like they can't let their business go. But to be able to detach from something is more spiritually healthy than being so attached that then it can cause you suffering.
So to take you a step back,
Mm.
the SMILE acronym comes for acceptance. So what I say is
Mm.
you move from feeling stuck to unstuck using
Mm.
gratitude and acceptance.
Mm. That
And
makes sense.
acceptance comes when you smile.
Yeah.
And then the 5-step process. So
Yeah, and I didn't even know that, but then I just said it's similar to acceptance. So there we go. It was going that way, like you had it planned out perfectly.
in sync. Um, so we do have some comments coming in. I
Yeah.
would love to have a look at them. Um, yes, we have a question from Vidya. She says, "Could a slowdown or a dip that teaches us lessons be considered as growth too?" Great question. Thank you.
And yes, of course, like we said, the times when you're growing the most might not be the times. It's up to you. It's like I say, I believe that the times you're growing the most are the times when people don't see the external success. Because people will say you're doing really well in life when your business is building, and you're making money and stuff like that, say, or whatever. But I don't think that's the time when you grow the most. If you look at, just as another example, you look at Tesla. If you look at the Tesla stock market, I know people might not be into stocks or whatever, but it's just really interesting. The Tesla, Elon Musk's company, have been on the stock market for 10 years or something. literally the whole line is like down here for 9 years, and then it just goes. But this 9 years was when the company was growing, but no one would have gone like, oh, it's so amazing. Everyone wants to come along when it's amazing, but it was amazing like right at the end. Like, this is the way bamboo grows. Like,
Yes.
bamboo takes like months, if not years, to grow the roots. That's the foundation of the thing. And then it spouts out at like 4 foot a day. And then everyone in society will go, oh, look how much this bamboo is growing. It's just that they didn't see the root process. And it's the same with us. When we're going through adversity, we're doing the roots. When we're taking time out, we're doing the roots. And then when someone sees you winning in business or in life or in relationships, they'll go like, that's when you're really growing. And really, you know that actually it was sometimes the time out.
True. All right, we got one more question from Merlin. The question is how to believe in yourself and make a change in your life. Great question.
Oh, great question. Great question, Merlin. And I think it comes from, you get really good as you get older of trusting your intuition. And that becomes, for me, like now my compass, where I just believe in myself. I don't know it. I just feel it and believe it. And I don't think this is even that talked about, really, because people want to make logical decisions on what you should do with your life. So logically, you should go to university because there's a 59% chance you'll get a job over 70 grand a year. If you go to law school, they're all logical decisions of like what it is rationally meant to look like. But that might not feel right to you. You might just have this feeling of like, I just feel like I should go on a meditation retreat for a month, which is what happened to me. Like, there's no logical, rational decision about that or whatever. I went for a week and a bit, but transitioning from voice coach to more life coach, there was no logic behind it. The logic was I'd done all the training in singing coaching. I had all the clients I ever needed. I had all the reviews, but there was and it wasn't emotional either. Because I don't understand as much, but I would say an emotional decision is when, you have like an emotional reaction, like when you're fired up and you make an emotional decision. I don't think that's right either. But I think if you can tap into and tune to your intuition, that's the thing where you say like, I just feel like I should be doing this, or I'm just drawn to this, or I just can't stop thinking about, art or making a song, or I just feel like I should be sharing my story. Because when I went out to share my story, some people told me, don't do it.
Mm.
I had a therapist guy who said, don't do it. I wouldn't do it.
Mm.
And now I feel like that just showed something that he wasn't prepared to do it. But of course, when you're coaches, as you know, you shouldn't really ever tell people what they should and shouldn't do. You allow them to uncover it within themselves. So what you're really doing is getting them to tap into their own intuition. There's like this feeling, this compass that you just sit at night and you just feel like this is what I should be doing. Or you do something and you're like, I don't feel anything. Like, I just don't think I should be doing this with my life. And I think that ways to tap into that better could be the smile. I know that when I spend time meditating or doing some breath work, I can really, I think, tap into intuition more. I feel like silencing the mind with a bit of meditation and breath work cuts out the clutter of logic and what you think you should be doing. And it taps into like more of an inner stillness where you would finish a lot of deep meditation, breath work, or just solo retreats. And you just go, do you know what? I feel like this is the right thing. And it takes a long time and wisdom. I mean, I couldn't have done that in my early 20s. It's a bit of a skill, really. And once you're able to tap into that intuition, your own, then going back to the question, you believe and trust yourself through the changes because you're tapping into this inner wisdom. It's hard to explain, but yeah, that's the best one
Definitely
I've got.
hard to explain. Because yes, definitely, breathwork is one of the steps and methods for
Oh, I love it.
another one where we're in synchronicity there. uh, it's like when you're uh, calming down those thoughts, when you're silencing the mind, that's when that you are able to then listen to that little voice within you that's like, go for it, I'm there with you, that
Yeah,
little support system that you have on your inside, which is your gut feeling, your
yeah.
intuition. So yes. All right. Any more questions? We have got. Let it go. Piki says, "Let it go." Okay, but what if it knocks again? Ha! And we have Yusuf replying, saying, "Let it go again." Plus one.
Well, Yusuf, you just did it for me, Yusuf.
So
Because
yeah.
it's not gonna be a, oh, I'll just let it go and that's it. It's not a quick fix. Acceptance takes time. I mean, in my opinion, it can take months or years. I mean, depending on what you went through, the level of severity of what you're trying to accept will be in relation to how long it takes to recover and fully accept it. So
Hmm.
you might chip away at letting it go 1% at a time, and it might take, like every time you're like at 97, and then you have another day or week where you let it go, you're at 96 or 95. Like it's a chip away over time that then you have acceptance. But just thinking that it's like, oh, I'll just accept it, or I'll just let it go, it doesn't happen like that. It works gradually over time.
Yes, it does. And I think what's also important is to be kind to yourself.
Yeah,
If you slip and fall, it's like telling yourself, "Yes, I got this. I might be having a dip in my energy. I might be having a bad day, but a bad day does not equate to a bad life." So just giving yourself that
mm.
room to wallow a little bit. Come on, it's okay, and then
Yeah,
moving on when needed. Yep.
yeah, and that's what we were saying again, like before. Like, it's okay, especially for men have struggles with this. It's okay to feel a bit sad for a bit, or it's okay to be melancholy. It's hard to do this as a society because when I say, "Hey, RK, how you doing?" You'd be like, "Yeah, great." You, especially down the street or whatever. You're not going to say, "Do you know what? I'm having real troubles at the moment accepting my this thing that happened 4 years ago." It's not socially
Yeah.
that normal. So generally, we're on the point of like just pretending everything's fine. So to be able to say it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel melancholy, it's okay to feel down, it's okay to not, to have a bit less results for a bit is normal. Because like I say, we're like the song. We have the highs and the lows. We have the trebles and the bass guitar, and it all maketh the journey. you know it's it's actually, I wouldn't say that I enjoy being sad now. I'm not worried about it because I'm aware that it's just part of life. You know what I mean? But when you demonize being sad and like, I've got to feel happy again, I've got to feel happy today or whatever, that's when you actually run into more problems, because again, you're just resisting the truth.
Hmm. So, transforming lives, overcoming adversities.
Yeah,
Um, Knowing that we are just close to 10 minutes
yeah,
into closing the call, what are certain things that you would like people to really, really focus on as they go into that transition, that transformation,
yeah.
and having that awareness?
So, my concept is, for true transformation of your life, is I have to do this the right way around. I don't know what way around I'm doing it. Past, present, future. So the way I think you transform your life in some way is past work first, then present work, then future work, in that order. So a lot of people will explain this, but a lot of people will just work on the future. right? And they'll say, right, what are my goals for 3 months' time? What do I want to achieve in 3 months' time? You will get some results there, but you won't get the results without this complete understanding of past, present, future. And because if you haven't fully healed from your past and you're trying to just get future goals, like I'm just going to push myself more, then this will be like a weight holding you down. So if anyone's been through any difficult times, any adversity, first port of call is if you're going through that difficult time of adversity now, you don't really need any of this advice, because what you're going to be in is you're going to be in survival mode, and you're going to be sort of in a sort of fight or flight reaction where you'll do anything to just survive. So that's the first step over here. But when you get out of that survival mode, you want to reflect and heal your past. Heal what happened to you. Heal the adversity in the past. Go through the past and how did you feel about it? Go through the emotions. Go through the lessons. Go through the gratitude of everything that went on that you're struggling with or that you want to change about yourself. Then look at where you are today in your present. Find out now what's important to you. This is when you think about your values, who you are, and you become more present, which might involve meditation or breath work. Then once these two things are solved, then you look to the future, and then you do future goal settings, your future self. What does your future purpose look like? What do you want to do in 3 years? What do you want to do in 10 years? So I think it's that process in that order, is healing the wounds from the past fully, which is the one that people don't really want to do. Then looking at who you are today in the present, and then looking at who you want to be in the future. And like I say, the mistake is just going to the future, because otherwise it's like a car with holes in it trying to go forward. But if you haven't healed the wounds of the past, you'll never really get that transformative result going forward. That's the sort of basic basis of like all my coaching now, really.
Hmm. And how I see it is, when you're writing on a whiteboard
Mm.
and something's already been written with a marker, you have to wipe that clean before you can write something else. You
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You have to clean the whiteboard. You have to come to terms with it, come to acceptance with it, wipe it off, start from a fresh sheet, and that's when you can have a new picture or a new writing on the wall. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's super important, and
Yeah.
it's almost like holding on to baggage. Um, if you've got your hands full with baggage of the past, there isn't anything new that you can let. Yeah, you might let stuff in, but there will come a point where you topple over because of all the weight that you're carrying.
Yeah.
And
And that's when you can't really live, the best life you can going forwards. And the other thing, just before we finish on this, is you can then use the past for a better future. So you can wipe it in a way. I get that. I totally get that. And I had to do that a lot. I had to clean slate it a lot. In fact, before my health story, I was Chris Mitchell. And after it, I was Christopher David Mitchell. And part of that was like a necessary identity shift of a new clean board.
hmm,
Which is sometimes important to kick you into the next chapter of your life. So I sort of tricked the system a bit there. But then you can also take the past, and to fully heal the past and transform your life, you can then use the weak past of trauma to your advantage to a beautiful future. So whether that's then telling it in a health video like I did, or writing a book, or building a YouTube channel around it, that's the full spectrum of transforming your own life, is when you use everything you've been through to transform other people's lives.
and I'm just going to look back at the comments, and what Picky has been doing is she's already done this twice, as she keeps asking, what if it knocks back? So I'm just going to ask you now, what if it knocks back? Because Chris, while we may have healed, while we might have cleaned the slate and everything,
Mm.
sometimes things do show up. Some
Mm.
people might work as a trigger. A song might be a trigger.
Mm.
Something that you eat, something that you smell. You can have triggers. of a
Mm.
memory, and then it just kind of takes you back in that moment. What do you do in that situation? How do you kind of
Well, I still get the memories, but they take me back in quite a nice way now that I'm healed. They don't take me back in a sad, triggered, emotionally way. The way that I would say to know, how do you know if you've healed? I would
Mm,
say if you can talk about it openly and if you're not triggered emotionally by it anymore. So if you'd have asked me all these questions today about tell me about your story through the health journey, when I was not ready to tell it because I hadn't done the acceptance, I would have been like, well, I would have been emotional. I would have been able to get through it. But now I can have a memory or an association like I've had today of what it's like. I can reflect for a second, but it doesn't put me in a negative place because there's no more negativity left. In fact, it sort of puts you in a place of like just thinking how far you've come. So
mm,
it's still always a part of you, but it doesn't affect you anymore in a negative way. You don't get triggered. You don't get emotional. You don't want to like say, I don't want to talk about it. You're just
mm,
cool like this. You're just open and cool to talk about it. And I think that's when you know that you've fully healed. And if you're still getting triggered, then it shows that there's still some work to be done.
what- hmm. Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time.
Mm.
Um, and before we close, is there anything that you would like to share as a closing comment for those who are either going through adversity or are going through transformation? Anything as closing comments that you'd like to share?
Wow. I would say that if you are, take care of yourself and if things get too tough through your adversity, surround yourself with others. Um, because I did a tribute the end of my video to a friend who passed away because things got too much for him through the adversity and he took his own life. And adversity and tough times are like an emotional weight. And the way you lift a physical weight, if you can't lift it, is you would get people around you to help you lift the weight, and then suddenly it's lighter. So if you're really struggling at any time through adversity, I'd recommend, whether it's professionals or family, getting people to guide you through the adversity. At times you need to be self-reflecting, but point is, if you're not doing it if you're struggling and you're worried about overcoming adversity, then seek the professional therapists, coaches, family, everyone, to help you on the journey. Because it's only when you're really comfortable that you're okay with being alone. But at times you need the help from professionals and personal relationships. So don't be afraid to reach out and don't feel any shame in that if you are struggling with whatever you've had going on in your life. I think more now than ever people will understand with the pandemic. They have a glimpse of what it's like. And that's all I'll say. And I just want to finish by saying thank you, RK. And I think that you have been doing something very inspiring here, very great, and something that I'll be honest with everyone here. The first time you asked me on to do this, I was busy doing other stuff, but you had a persistence of saying, actually, let's definitely do this. That shows up in a great way. And those are the people that go on to do great things. The channel's getting bigger and bigger, and I applaud the work that you're doing. And thanks for inviting me on.
Thank you so much, Chris, for saying yes. And these conversations that I have are from people from my circle of genius. So anyone and everyone that I've met across my social media platforms, at conferences, events, in coaching. So these are the people I invite on board. And I completely agree with you when you say surround yourself with the right people.
Mm.
I wouldn't have reached 64 episodes if it hadn't been for the amazing gems that I'm connected with. So I'm so grateful for my
Mm.
tribe, for my circle of genius, and to you for saying yes and giving us your time. So thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. It's been a lovely, very powerful conversation. Something that I'm sure you've taken a lot of gems from, a lot of gratitude coming in from Yusuf, Vidya, Piki, everybody else. Thank you once again. Have a great rest of the evening, day, wherever you are in the world. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And until the next episode, Bye for now. Yes.